I'm going to try to help you out through today. I'll try to do these videos as often as I can. Keyword as often as I can. Few words. But so what you can do today, right now, is take 5 minutes to pause and study what you were supposed to be working on last class, which was your results and conclusions using the original article and the textbook. The textbook here is really going to help you since I'm not there. And I actually don't have a textbook with me. I thought I had one at home, so I'm kind of just like blindly going into this. But the textbook will help you take all of that professional college jargon and turn it into normal everyday, translate it into normal everyday words. So right now, pause the video for 5 minutes to study. Okay, and then now that you've studied, I'm going to give you your bell ringer. Let's see which one we're going to choose here. Boom. Here you go. So I'm going to explain this for a second. Explain how one finding from Hassett supports one of the assumptions of the biological approach. Now, I know we haven't gone over how to answer this question yet, and it is in your packet on the front page under assumptions. But this is our opportunity to talk about this. So finding, if you see here, they are using finding to refer to either a result or a conclusion. Now, normally I think I would stick with conclusion for finding, but this comes straight from an old test, so you can use either a result or a conclusion for this, and 1 mark for stating that. So just 1 mark, 1 out of 2 marks for just stating one of the findings, one of the results or one of the conclusions. Okay, and remember what has to go in a result versus a conclusion, but for this question, it doesn't matter because either one will work. The other mark is going to come from how we can tie that result or conclusion directly to one of our assumptions of our biological approach. Remember, Hassett et al. Is monkey toy preferences. It is in the biological approach, right? So one of the assumptions from the biological approach. And this is the same thing as a link. Do you remember how we have to, when they give hypothetical situations, and you have to link your answer directly back to the scenario, the situation that they've laid out for you? Well, for this one, this is linking the finding or conclusion explicitly back to one of the assumptions of the biological approach. So you just have to say something about one of the assumptions and how this one supports it, okay? So you can't just state a result and then state an assumption. You have to link it with a few words, okay? So pause here. This is a 2-mark question. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. So pause the video 5 minutes. Okay, so at this point, you should be done. Your note cards are turned in to tomorrow's Wednesday, Miss Orabello. And I want to explain how to answer this now. So if we go to our textbook, the online one, not the one that we're given because it sucks, but the textbook that is Swash Woodcroft. I uploaded this to Teams. It might be either under files or it's all the way in the beginning of our channel. But so I'm going to scroll up to, this is page 15 in this textbook. They put research methods at the back of the book. So it starts with the biological approach. Now, the main assumptions of the biological approach, and these might look differently on your packet. I think I did put them on your packet for you, and it's different in the other textbook, but the main ideas are there. It's okay that they're different. You just want to know one of them, really. So one main assumption is that behavior, cognitions, and emotions can be explained in terms of the working of the brain. okay? If you were to be asked a question, what are outline one assumption of the biological approach, and it's a 2-mark question, you would get 1 mark just by saying, if you just said behavior can be explained in terms of the working of the brain. Okay, or you would get 1 mark by saying cognitions or thoughts or emotions can be explained in terms of the working of the brain. You get 1 mark for that. For the 2nd mark, you have to give some example. So we have examples, hormones, genetics, evolution. What are some other examples? Think of Demen and Kleitman. Behavior, thoughts, emotions. So we're going to do thoughts because Demen and Kleitman was about our dreams. Our dreams are our thoughts. So how did we explain our dreams? Through the workings of the brain and the body, through eye movements. Remember, eye movements, through brainwave activity, through the EEG. Okay, so you could say any of those things. So for Hassett et al. With monkey toy preferences, what are they looking at? They're looking at sex differences between monkeys, and if that changed, if that was a factor that influenced what kind of toys they liked to play with. So sex differences, what does that come down to? Does it come down to evolution? Does it come down to genetics? No, it comes down to hormones. So if we were to just stick with the first assumption, we would outline one of the assumptions. We would say behavior can be explained in terms of the brain, the body, and hormones. And then you could say something like, Hassett, it was the finding. So you could say that males and female monkeys preferred different types of toys due to differences in sex hormones. It's funny, actually, this question is usually a 4-mark question. Let me go back to the question. What does it say? No. Okay, so sometimes this question will be outline one of the assumptions of the biological approach and then provide an example from one of the case studies. So that would be where you would have to do the assumption and then a finding and link it. But so where are we at? Effects of hormones. So you could say that males and female monkeys did prefer different types of toys due to their differences in their sex hormones. Now, this is based on what the researchers are claiming, but today is all about Graves, so we're going to evaluate whether their study actually holds up, is actually valid, reliable, and generalizable. If we, handled all of the extraneous variables, and it's a credible study to say that their differences in their preferences of toys were truly from just the level of testosterone and estrogen. Remember, testosterone is is the hormone that males have more of, and they still have estrogen, but they have more testosterone. And then females have more estrogen, and they still have testosterone, but they have more estrogen. So that difference in hormone level is what a lot of people like to attribute differences in our behaviors. And there are some behaviors that are tied to these. Okay. But you could have used any result or any conclusion. So I'd like you could also, if you wanted to stick with the second assumption, you could say similarities and differences between people can be understood in terms of biological factors. What are our biological factors? Hormones, genetics, evolution, hunger level, eye movement, right? It's a biological factor. It's something happening in the body. Brainwave activity, okay? Biological factor, anything that's happening in the body, okay? So similarities and differences between human behavior, similarities and differences between people's thoughts, similarities and differences between people's emotions can be understood in terms of the body. That's what that's saying. Brutus! He's trying to get my attention. So, okay, we have this assumption. So we could say that the males, now here's a finding, right? Now this is a result, because I'm talking specifically about what the monkeys are doing in the study, not what the claim is. But so I would say the male monkeys predominantly preferred, you could just say the male monkeys preferred the masculine typed toys, the wheeled toys, more more than the female typed toys, the plush toys. You could just say that, because now you don't have to compare the male to the female. You could just compare wheeled to plush toys. Remember, results have to have a comparison. So, where are we at? How long has it been recording for? It doesn't tell me. Okay. Well, so you could say male monkeys preferred wheeled toys to plush toys. Boom, you have your finding. Now, tied to the assumption, you would say this might explain differences in why males and females prefer different types of toys because of their because of their hormones, because of their biological sex. Okay. Yeah, what do we have? 1 mark for explaining how it supports the assumption explicitly. Yeah, so it's important to try to remember the assumptions. I would try to remember the easiest assumption from every approach. And there's 4 approaches. You just have to memorize 4 sentences, okay? And when you think about it, it makes sense. Don't try to use all these fancy words. Stop it. Stop it. This isn't English. This is science, straight to the point. Okay, so if you want to just say behavior can be explained in terms of the body, boom, you're done. You're good. Okay, you could say differences between people can be explained in terms of the body, biological factors. Boom, you're done. Okay, that's a 1 mark assumption. And if you want to get the 2 marks, you have to give an example. Hormones, genetics, eye movement, evolution, etc. Whatever. Just memorize 1 from each approach. But okay, so that's how you would answer the bell ringer. So let's we're going to go to grave. And I actually think, where are we? I actually think they do a whole grave in this textbook. I'm telling you guys, this textbook is way better. Oh, I think we got it. We're here now. Hassett. Okay, and look, it even has these really great exam style questions that are included in this book. It's like Miss Olson made this book. I didn't, but okay, so here's our main research question. Oh, never mind, it's not. Okay, so you can read this on your own, but this is our guy. Personally, I hope I can do a good job evaluating this for you guys, but I might have to explain more in person, because there's some criticisms with this study and their claims. Okay. So, by the way, in grave, the A, application in the real world, on the left-hand side of your, here we go, on the left-hand side where it says, what's the psychology being investigated? This is also in your outline in your packet too. The psychology being investigated is, what are they studying? What is the idea that they are trying to study? And for here, there's multiple, right? So for here, this study is all about nature versus nurture. Is it their nature, the biological sex, male versus female, that makes them want to play with squishy toys and make rectangular hard edge toys with wheels, mechanical toys, whatever you want to call it? Or is it because are they learning it from some other monkey in the clan? Or and it's nurtured into their behavior and conditioned into them. So this was like, so that's what the study was studying. And play is this idea. Play is actually a really important part of life. It's part of positive psychology. Play is super important, especially when we look at little kids. So play can be the psychology being investigated. You could say the role of nature or sex differences. You could say socialization. Remember, so this is also a UK book, because socialization in the United States would be with a Z, but they don't care about spelling on the test, so it's okay. I would go with play, sex differences, or socialization in the role of nurture. So we have the role of nature, the role of nurture. Sex differences, the role of nature, socialization, and the role of nurture. And then this would be the most specific you could go, hormones and toy preferences. Okay, now, this study was a controlled observation. I hope you guys already got that. Even though it was in a lab, it was not a lab experiment. It was a controlled observation. They set it up, and then they had cameras that videoed the what do you call a monkey child? The monkey kids. And then they marked down how much they saw of each behavior from the behavioral categories. How do we know that it's a controlled observation? Because it was done in a lab. It was an observation in a lab with everything. The setting was controlled. The timing was controlled. The types of toys were controlled. Okay? We manipulated the whole situation and then just threw them in there and observed. I'm going to just keep scrolling down to see if we can skip right to the evaluation. Actually, I do kind of want to look at the results with you guys, because I'm sure you guys might have been confused. How about we just go through this? Okay. The observers calculated average frequencies and durations for each behavior by adding up the totals, dividing by the number of trials each monkey participated in. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. You do need to know that how was the dependent variable? It's an observation, so there's not a dependent variable. The variable under investigation, right? It was frequency and duration. Okay? Oh, crap. Is it a controlled observation or a lab experiment with a controlled observation? If it is an experiment, it's a quasi-experiment because it's a naturally occurring independent variable, right? You can't change the boy monkey into the girl monkey. At least they didn't do that. Someone figured it out. Correct me. Okay, so frequency, that is how many times, and duration, for how long. So they weren't just looking at like which toy they played with. They were looking at how many times each behavior occurred. I think it's a controlled observation. Oh, I don't know. Figure it out. They weren't just looking at, they were looking at how many times. That's frequency. How many times? How many times each behavior was done. So throw up in the air. Remember it's throw up in the air. How many times they threw it up in the air? That would be frequency. And then duration, let's say they just held it. Okay, so then they would look on the recording and they would count how many seconds each, like if it was a plush toy or a wheeled toy, how long it was held for. So how long and then how often. That's duration. How long? Frequency is how often. So, we go a few seconds. Okay, so here, male monkeys preferred wheeled toys. This is true. Overall, the males, and where's our comparison? The males preferred wheeled toys over the plush toys by a statistically significant amount. So male monkeys' significant preference for the wheeled toys compared with plush toys. They also played less with the plush toys compared to the females. Further analysis showed that 73% of the males preferred wheeled toys, 9% preferred plush toys. And how do they know preference? Because they're looking at how many times and for how long. So they're just looking at those two things, how many times and for how long. So if they had more times interacting with the wheeled toys than plush, then that would add to their preference. If they had longer time with the wheeled toys than the plush toys, that would add to the preference. These preferences did not appear to be affected by age or rank. That was actually important. They looked at whether rank mattered. That's in the textbook, though. They explain this. I'll let you read it. Please read it. Please read it. Okay. So we've got, see, frequency here. Don't worry about standard deviation. And we have duration. Okay, so done in minutes, not seconds. Okay. Frequency. So let's look at the wheeled, because we just talked about male monkeys with the wheeled toys. So male monkeys, they played with the wheeled. Wait, where are we? They played with the wheeled toys more often than the female, but that's not too much. That's not too much more. And then they also spent more time overall, more time with the wheeled toys than the females, and that's more statistically significant. For the plush toys, the little stuffed animals, the females did spend significantly more time with the plush toys than the males. And then slightly more time with the plush toys than the males did. But I want you to look at the females. Look at the female plush versus wheeled. Female wheeled was 6.96, female plush was 7.97. That's pretty close. So, did the females prefer the plush toys over the wheeled toys? No. That is another significant finding with this study, was that female monkeys showed no consistent preference. Although the females showed some preference for plush, it wasn't statistically significant. The difference was not significant. There was also no significant difference between the males and females in terms of frequency of wheeled toy play. So wheeled, we just look at that, yeah. Frequency, wheeled toy play. Only 30% of females preferred the plush toys, 39% preferred the wheeled toys, and 30% showed no significant preference for either toy. Okay, I want to stop there and just talk about how this was great, because this study, these findings actually mirror what we see in young children and 4 to 6 year old young girls and boys. So you might have had this different idea that little girls, they get dolls, and little boys, they get monster trucks. And if you're like me, who's a little girl, grew up with 3 brothers, you always wanted the wheeled monster trucks and always kept getting the dolls. And we're like, what the crap, Mom? But so females, young girls, have no preference. Okay, well, when you average it out, some girls have a preference for wheels, some girls have a preference for plush, and then it also an even amount goes either way. So young girls don't have a preference, okay? But we do see that young boys do have a significant preference for wheeled toys. So we see this with young human children, and then it was confirmed with the monkey. This study confirms that that previous study that proved that. So, and then over time, with the marketing and advertising of certain toys for different sexes, it's called sex-typed toys or sex typing. Then you see girls gravitate more towards, they're being conditioned to play with the dolls more, and then boys conditioned to continue their interest in the wheeled, masculine typed Legos and things like that. Okay, so Here's another interesting thing with hierarchy, though. Females with no preference ranked significantly lower in the social hierarchy than females who preferred plush toys. But there was no significant difference in rank between females who preferred wheeled plush versus plush toys. I'm going to have to consult the original article for this. There was an interesting finding with rank. Okay, here it is. So, I'm going to let you just go with the duration so we can move forward. But social rank and toy preference. There was actually a correlation with social rank and frequency of interaction for both types of toy. Higher ranking, I'm going to need you guys to fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure this was only found with the females. Also something that we think in society is that there's the social hierarchy with men and like the alpha, etc., right? But in actuality, this study showed that the females were the ones who used social rank to spend more time with and more frequency with the toys that they wanted. Not the males. I need you to confirm that in the original article, though. This is suggesting that it was both. Okay, that's true. And frequency of interaction for both types of toy. Higher ranking monkeys interacted more with the toys. Okay, but this was the females. Interestingly, when the data from females was examined more closely, the researchers found that the higher the rank, the more time females spent interacting with the plush toys. All right, so we're talking about just the plush toys and just the females, social rank and toy preference. So, great. Now, conclusions. Based on their observations and comparisons with human infants, Hassett et al. Concluded that sex-typed toy preferences in humans may result from biological sex differences, as their observations suggest that rhesus monkeys show similar preferences to human infants even without clear gender differences in socialization. What's socialization? I should have talked about that. Socialization is you hanging around. It's your social group having an influence on you, okay? And so when you're a child and you're like a little boy and you see dad do things and you want to mirror dad and what he's doing, or dad is giving you the wheeled toys, right? And then you witness him give your sister a stuffed animal. Okay, so you're witnessing this socialization, like your little brain is going, I get this toy and she gets that one. And then you start to maybe think there's a reason for this and that maybe this is the way it has to be. And then you internalize those preferences and then you live your lives. So, but I want you to also consider that this study was being used to generalize to children, human children. We were using monkeys to generalize to humans. Okay, so that's our first one with generalizability. Okay. Evaluating. Look at this. All right, so we got, you guys oh no. We have to go over animal ethics. Okay, so, next class is going to be animal ethics. Or today. You know what? You guys are good. I know you're just going to fly through this, okay? So, okay. Animal ethics. You can read about it in the textbook. Find the page. I'll have Miss Orbello print you out the worksheet for it. You could do the same thing as you did before. Just find an unethical animal study and then evaluate it in terms of that if you want. You don't have to. You could just use the worksheet for your notes. because I know sometimes we care about animals more than humans. So, we have, let's start with generalizability. Here we go. The lack of adult males in the sample was a weakness. So we only had child monkeys. There were 11 male monkeys, and they were all juvenile, so that means all children. Or elderly? I don't remember this. As toy play interaction may be affected by social rank and age, generalizations should be made with caution, especially as the only high-ranking male did not interact with any of the toys. He was like, honey, but I don't care. Therefore, the findings can only be generalized to lower-ranking non-adult males. How many? There were 20, if I'm remembering correctly, I remember 23 female monkeys and then 11 male monkeys. So there was a gender imbalance, not a gender. There was a sex imbalance. Okay, we had more females than males. And then there's also that monkeys are not humans. Okay, we do share a significant amount of DNA, so you can also argue that the line we can make that leap, but you can argue that we can't if you would like to. Let's go to, and then remember when it comes to grave, you want to say whether it was high or low. So generalizability was high or low. Why? Just a general statement. Low sample size. Sex imbalance. Also, were these captive monkeys? Were they raised in captivity? Were their parents raised in captivity? Or were they taken from the wild? Can we extend this to monkeys in the wild too, without any kind of nurturing or learned behaviors from a laboratory? Because there are learned behaviors that get passed down through animals in captivity, even without any apparent socialization. So they might be, if we were to just take away the children part and generalize to monkeys, rhesus monkeys, well, we can't generalize to wild rhesus monkeys. We would only have to be able to generalize to monkeys in captivity. So there's also another weakness in the generalizability. But you could say that it has low generalizability because a sex imbalance. You could say there was also just not a lot that we studied. 11 and 23, like when we finally got to the final numbers, there was not that many. So whatever it is, and then just provide your evidence, provide the exact numbers of the sample, provide the evidence of they were captive. This is evidence just by saying they were captive monkeys. They were monkeys in captivity. You could provide the lab that they were studied at or held in captivity at. You could say that they weren't humans. Okay, so let's go to reliability. Reliability, remember, has to do with consistency. What was consistent? So it was a controlled observation. There's a lot of things that were consistent because we controlled them, okay? So a strength was the use of carefully operationalized behavioral checklists. We had the same behaviors we were looking for with each monkey, with each trial. Okay, so the behaviors we were looking for were consistent from monkey to monkey, from trial to trial. And we operationalized them. So you knew that throw meant throw up in the air. You knew that turn meant turning the toy around. It was operationalized. There was 2 observers. So was there inter-observer reliability? I don't know. We're going to have to look at the original article if there was that. Look for the inter-observer reliability. Were they all the same amount of time? Were the trials all the same amount of time? Were the toys the same? Were they the exact same, distance from the toy when the observation started? Was there any counterbalancing? Wink, wink. There was. Remember, they counterbalanced where the location of the toy was. There was one trial where the standardization was abandoned. This occurred due to one of the monkeys ripping apart one of the plush toys. All right, so we had to throw away one of the plush toys. The trial was terminated 7 minutes early as the researchers were unable to observe the monkey's preference for one toy type over another because one of them was destroyed. Sounds like my dog. That's okay. Okay. Validity. So internal and external. So internal validity is how well were we able to study play and hormones' effect on biological sex and toy preference. Okay. Were there any other factors, extraneous variables that could have gotten in the way of this? So we had 7 separate trials. They were each 25-minute long. Different pairs of plush and wheeled toys were used on each trial. Okay, so actually that is an argument against reliability because they used different types of toys. They weren't the same toy each time. But this does increase validity because one of the things that could have happened if they used the same toy or the same toy pairs is that what if the scent from the previous monkeys that played with it were on it, and then for the next trial, the monkeys weren't being attracted to the toy type, they might have been attracted to the scent. So by using different pairs of toys each time, this increases the validity because it takes away that extraneous variable of being attracted to scent instead. Okay. And then, so you could say that, or you could say it also, they're saying that males were drawn to wheeled toys in general as opposed to one specific type of wheeled toy. Like, instead of being attracted to, now we have scent, but we could also have, it wasn't just about the color or the size. The use of video cameras helps too because then they can pause the video, they can, the observers are not in the actual enclosure, so the monkeys aren't distracted by the humans, and that eliminates the extraneous variable of the monkeys going towards the people, wanting to play with the people instead of the toys. This says that monkeys may have played less if they were stressed by the humans, or they might have played more because they knew that they would think that the humans could give them a reward. And that's the kind of downfall of monkeys in captivity because they're so used to that positive reinforcement, the reward, and when they do things that they like. So they're very like people-pleasing behaviors. So that's good. What else? Well, external validity. So let's look at external validity. I skipped application. So how well does this experiment represent real life scenarios? Does it? Are we raised in a lab? Are monkeys in captivity? It was done in a lab where those monkeys are. So realistically, this kind of depends on who we're generalizing to. So if you're generalizing to monkeys, okay, like, yes, it does represent the monkey lab represents the monkey lab, right? Now, is this externally valid for human children? Well, you could argue either way, right? Because we used human toys. We used human wheeled and human plush toys. Is this externally valid to rhesus monkey environments in the wild? No, because it's a lab. And it was a controlled observation. So I would say try to think about children, human children, playing with wheeled or plush toys, and where they would normally do that. Would they normally do that in a lab, or would it be in a classroom, or on a playground, or with their parents, or with their family? And this situation is just not that. But if you want to just focus on monkeys, you could say it was externally valid because it was exactly in the place where they would normally play with these toys. What else? Ethics, I'm going to let you get there. I'll post the worksheet for that for you guys. And then application to the real world. How can we apply these understandings to society in a practical way? Now, this is where you would say something along the lines of, we could use this to help encourage more, continue the diversity of female preferences, okay, and support young girls continue continue to support young girls in both wheeled and plush or masculine and feminine typed toys, because the feminine typed toys are what culture decides are feminine, okay? But when you look at the studies, girls actually like both. So it's feminine typed is not. So we could use this to encourage more diversity of toy play with young children, especially for females, because they show an early preference for both. And then for males, we could encourage, maybe explore them to play with the plush and see where that goes. I don't know. I see this more of an application. We have to look at the current state of our society and culture and what we need. And so if this study is like, okay, let's get back to our nature, what they want to prove is nature, then we would try to, we obviously see like very big divide in terms of toys for males and females. So now we know from this study, if this study can be applied to children, that males are doing just fine playing with the wheeled stuff. But oh, look at that. There's a little, cool. But our females are kind of being done a disservice by only having these plush toys pushed on them when they do show an interest in the wheeled, and this could lead